So it's pretty clear, given the intensity of global competition, that the U.S. needs every advantage it can get. And the advantage that I focus on is innovation, particularly innovation in new products. Let's take the example of high technology products. So let's just imagine that you go back a couple years and you're trying to design a breakthrough smartphone. And you want something that's going to shake up the market. I don't know, like some Northern California-based company, let's say. How would you do it? Specifically, how would you come up with lots of creative ideas, and how would you know if those ideas are going to sell in the marketplace? So I want to propose one or two ideas on how to do this. The first general idea is that you need to consider many, many options. And the way you're going to do that is make the cost of considering an idea or an option or a new product concept, to make that cost very, very low. So in my classes on new product development, we actually run projects where teams compete with each other to design products. And in the particular case of the last couple of years, they have in fact been designing smartphones, the future of smartphones. These are cell phones that can do a lot more than just talking. Now, we give them a lot of market research. They collect their own market research. We give them models of the costs and trade-offs involved in designing one of these devices, and then we just set them off. And they go and design all sorts of amazing products, and at the end of the course, they present to each other and compete. And the winner, which affects their grades and their performance and their self-esteem most importantly, the winner is the team, not that I like the most as a professor or the teaching team likes the most, but rather that their fellow students like the most. They literally vote for each other's products. So in this last year, we had 28 teams competing, and they cast their votes at the end of the quarter, and we ended up with a result. Now, what's astonishing is that when we did this 2 years ago, the result was a smartphone that had absolutely no keys, was all screen, and as you used it for different functions, the screen would change and you'd push different buttons with your fingers. And it had a camera built into it, and it looked an awful lot like the iPhone that Steve Jobs just announced recently. This caused a lot of excitement among my former students because they said, hey, we designed that thing 2 years ago. But more impressive than the fact that a team had designed this 2 years before it's actually released is the fact that their fellow students, out of the 30 projects that year that were up for grabs, for prize, that was the product that people chose. So their fellow students recognized its greatness as well as the team coming up with it. Now, what's really interesting is that I not only asked students to vote for their favorite products, but I also asked them, what do you think your fellow students are going to say in this vote? So they each made a prediction, not only giving their own preferences, but their prediction of other people's preferences. And of course, if I've designed a product, I'm going to favor my own product. But it's a little unclear what I'm going to say other people will do. You know, can I be objective about that? So here are two results that happened. One, students were pretty bad at guessing what other people would say. We use a number called R-squared of 25%. They were able to explain approximately 25% of what the other students, the variation in what the other students said. This was not so impressive. Secondly, the bias in favor of their own products really showed. When they were guessing what other people would say about their own product, they were way too optimistic. So that's kind of the bad news. But the good news, in fact, the great news was when we took all the students and we added them all together and said, well, as a whole, what does the class say? The results were astonishing. They got 90% accuracy. So this is the wisdom of the crowds. The wisdom of the crowd says that a group of smart people will outperform any one expert almost all of the time. And we proved that in a simple experiment here. Just so you know, it's not that as if every student was a bad guesser. We had students that guessed as high as 50 to 70% accuracy, which was pretty impressive. But when you aggregated that class, it did even better. So that led to another piece of research, which is even more interesting. What if instead of having these people vote and guess what other people would vote for, what if we had them play a game called the stock market game? I even abbreviate this to STOC, Securities Trading of Concepts. So instead of trading real stocks, such as a company stock like an Apple or an IBM, the value of which is based on underlying financial fundamentals, let's base these stocks on the percentage of vote that each product would get, each team would get. So if I think that the iPhone-like smartphone is going to be very popular and will garner, say, 30% of the votes, then it's worth $30. That's how it works. We played these stock games, and here's the really amazing thing. Within 30 minutes, in every trial of these stock games that we tried, the accurate real prices within about 80, 90% accuracy materialized in about 10 to 15 minutes. Meaning that without any surveys at all, just letting them play a stock game and watching the prices of the stocks, we could have discovered the iPhone or any other hit product. Is the cost high for doing this? It's almost zero. Once you have the stock software set up, have people log into the web, and you get these results. Okay, great. Works with students, works with smartphones. How about other product categories, and how about in the real world? So I was fortunate this past summer to hook up with a company in California that manufactures the key components for smartphones. And we had their executives, their engineers, and their managers play similar stock games. They traded 64 different stocks representing smartphones themselves and the features of smartphones. And lo and behold, 80% accuracy within 30 minutes. To trade all 64 of those stocks, how many people did I have? Did I have thousands, hundreds of thousands like in the real stock market? No, I had 63 people. So 63 people in half an hour accurately identified the key features of a smartphone. And boy, was I gratified when a few months later, Apple announces a product that's totally consistent with all the things that our stock markets said. So the key takeaway is that you can lower the cost of testing many, many ideas, and you can get reasonably accurate information about whether the thing will sell or not by either using surveys or a stock market, and it all comes back to the wisdom of crowds. Thank you for listening.